What's up, people? In this video we're going to take a look at my Armenian brother over here, Patrik Baboumian. Baboumian? Anyway, yeah, Baboumian. Just gonna go with that. Baboumian, yeah, is his name. I actually did one of his videos earlier today, and I watched it before I uploaded it, and I was like, I don't know, I was picking a callus off my hand, and it was really gross. It like grossed me out, so I don't want to upload that video. It was this one right here, so we're just going to do another one. Yeah, I think it was a good video. You guys probably don't care, but it just kind of like grossed me out, and I don't know, I don't want to upload it. So we'll do another one. I don't really care. I enjoy making videos like this, and yeah, it's just fun. Okay, so this guy is claiming world's strongest vegan. Yeah, and he probably is the world's strongest vegan. Like, this guy, 350 kilogram raw deadlift. That's like almost 800 pounds, more than 800 pounds. Like, the guy's a monster. Seems like a nice guy, and yeah, this video, he was really cool. I kind of want to upload that video, but whatever, I don't know, we'll see. I'm gonna do this one anyway, because I already said I would. So, is soy really going to kill you? Excuse me. Oh, by the way, if you guys have any other recommendations for YouTubers that you want me to take a look at, or specific videos, let me know. Somebody asked for this guy, so I'm doing it. But yeah, leave me a comment in the comment section if you have anybody in particular.
Let's talk about soy, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things, all the bad things that may be. Let's talk about soy. Let's talk about soy. Hi and welcome to the second episode of Where Do You Get Your Protein TV. In the last episode we talked about protein in general, and in this episode I would like to go a little bit more specific and talk about soy as a specific protein source, or as a specific part of your nutrition. So when it comes to soy, there are lots of misunderstandings, and there is a lot of controversy, because some people really think that soy is the devil in the disguise of food, and other people really think that soy can be a good idea and it can really work for your health and so on. So I want to just check the facts and just check the cons and the pros towards soy. And I would just begin with the cons, because I think on the con side there is a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of misconception when it comes to the real facts. So one thing that you're going to hear, and it has pretty much nothing to do with nutrition, is that soy basically is destroying the environment. So how's that? It goes a little bit something like, you tell someone that you're vegan, and they go like, so you eat a lot of tofu. Your tofu is destroying the environment, my friend. You have heard about deforestation and monocultural farming. So that's pretty much the argument. And let's check the facts now. So when it comes to soy production, global soy production, you have to know that there are two branches. The one branch is soy oil production. The other branch is soy meal production. So soy oil production actually goes in large amounts into food production for people, for humans, and into the production of biofuel. Now you have to know that soy oil has pretty much nothing to do with vegans. If you're consuming soy oil, it just takes the place of other plant-based oils. So it pretty much has nothing to do with being vegan or not. So that's the one thing. Biofuel also has nothing to do with vegans or anything else. What has something to do with vegans is soy protein, because vegans consume things like tofu and other foods that are high in soy protein, and that's what you have to look for if you want to check the effects of increasing numbers of vegans and the production in general. So let's see where all that soy protein goes to. And if you take a look at that and take a look at the statistics, you find out that more than 90% of soy protein production actually goes into the stomachs of livestock. It goes to factory farms. It goes into the production of meat. So what you find out is that this monocultural style farming, which leads to deforestation, is not based on the consumption of that is produced by vegans, but is actually caused by the behavior of meat eaters, because it goes into the production of meat. So you see, that's the first misunderstanding.
Okay, so that's interesting. I'm not sure why he talked about soy oil in the beginning. I thought he was going to go somewhere with that. He didn't say, maybe I missed it, but I don't think he said what percentage of soy farming or whatever goes to food versus what goes to oil right? Like, or biofuel or whatever. So I thought that's like where he was leading with that. I'm not really sure why he even brought that up. But maybe because he just wanted to say like that's not ruining the environment and it's not vegans anyway, or if it is ruining the environment, it's not our fault kind of thing. Like, I don't know. But that was interesting. I didn't know that 90% of all soy is consumed by animals. Haven't fact checked that. Can't say that I really care enough to actually Google search it, but I'm going to take it at face value, because generally with like, here's the thing with like all of these like vegan, professional vegans, let's just call them, the whole like the vegan, I don't want to say agenda, but like the vegan attitude is so, it's all about like I feel like before these guys go anywhere, they like check their notes and like make sure they have like all their facts straight so that they can argue with people about their veganism or something. I just get that vibe from them. He seems pretty chill. Like, he seems like a nice guy. Like, I kind of like him. He is Armenian. I am part Armenian, so like, you know, have that, like, you have to support each other. Not a lot of us. But yeah, like, I don't know. I guess that was an interesting fact that he mentioned. Maybe he's going to go somewhere with that. I'm not really sure. Also, can we talk about that intro, like the little song? I don't know. It's kind of endearing. Gotta say. All right. Anyway, let's go on.
Okay, let's now go to other points. Okay, when it comes to health issues, and if you talk to bodybuilders or strength athletes or fitness athletes, you're going to hear one word, and that's phytoestrogens. What are phytoestrogens? Phytoestrogens are actually plant hormones. So, like animals, plants also use hormones as a way to take signals from one part of the organism to another part of the organism. To understand how hormones work, we have to understand that the hormone itself is the carrier of the signal. So the cell in the body, in the plant or in the animal, then is the receiver of that signal. And in the cell there is something called a receptor. And you can imagine the whole thing as the hormone being a key and the receptor being a lock. So if the right key goes to the right lock, it opens the lock. And what happens is that the cell understands the signal that is carried by the hormone and then puts forward some reaction, some chemical reaction. So that's how hormones work. Now we have to...
So I think that's the best explanation of hormones that I've ever heard. Because honestly, like, kind of ashamed to admit this, really had no idea. I mean, I guess that's not exactly like what a hormone is, but yeah, I didn't know that that's like what it does. But anyway, let's move on before I admit other embarrassing things.
Take a look on what phytoestrogens actually are. So the misunderstanding is that if you eat stuff containing a large amount of phytoestrogens, and let's say you are a man, what you are doing is you are taking female hormones into your body. And what is going to happen is that you're going to get problems and issues because those female hormones are going to cause things like breasts growing. And that's something that you don't want to have as a man. And also, if you're a strength athlete, they're going to, you get issues like having more body fat and so on. So it would impair your physical abilities and your physical parameters that you need for your sport. Is that really true? No, it isn't at all. Why? Because phytoestrogens are not the same as animal estrogens. Yeah, they're different. They're not like very different, but they're a little bit different. So what happens? Now, let's go back to our picture with the key and the lock. So what happens if the key that you try to use to open a lock is similar to a right key, but it is not the same? What happens is the key goes into the receptor and tries to open the lock. But because it doesn't have the exact right structure, it can't open the lock. So, no boobs, no breasts growing in men, nothing like that. What really happens is actually the opposite. Like for women, it can sometimes be good if the estrogen level is controlled. And if you take a look on some studies, you find out that phytoestrogens even help women to control their estrogen levels and thus even prevent breast cancer. And on that, let's just take a look on the video that I took from nutritionalfacts.org, and let's hear what Dr. Greg has to say on that.
So before we watch Dr. Greg, in the last video that I watched of him, which actually, now that I think about it, I'm probably going to upload it. Like, you guys just have to get over my like callus picking, activity. He addresses this about the phytoestrogens and the way that he kind of maybe this video was done after that one, but at the end of that video he teased this video, so like I think he pretty much knew what he was going to say. But anyway, in that video he talks about phytoestrogens, and he talks about how, like, he talks about where he gets his protein. He's like, oh, legumes and cereals, like, and he's mentioning all this stuff. He brings up soy, so he talks about phytoestrogens and how they're bad, and like how you should eat fermented soy if you're going to eat soy, or like limit the amount of soy that you eat, and like don't go crazy with it. And also, like, that being said, well, okay, let's just leave it there, and then let's watch this video and see what this is about.
Why do people who eat legumes, beans, chickpeas, split peas, and lentils, live longer? Well, men and women who eat legumes tended towards being lighter, having a slimmer waist, lower blood sugars, lower cholesterol, lower triglycerides, better kidney function, lower blood pressure, so no surprise may live longer. But, interestingly, bean intake was a better protectant against mortality in women than men. They think this may be because cancer was the leading killer of women in this population, especially breast cancer. And we know that breast cancer survivors who eat soy foods, for example, have significantly lower likelihood of cancer recurrence. Eating soy foods appears to protect against the cancer coming back. This 2012 review looked at 3 prospective human studies done to date and found that women who ate the most soy had a 29% lower risk of dying from breast cancer and a 36% lower risk of cancer recurrence. And a 4th study was since published, and it showed the same thing. Soy food intake associated with longer survival and lower recurrence among breast cancer patients.
Sorry, I just want to read this really quick.
Average intake of soy phytonutrients above 17 milligrams a day, which is about what's found in a single cup of soy milk, the mortality of breast cancer may be able to be reduced by as much as 38%. Here's the survival curve over 5 years. The purple line represents the survival of the women with the highest soy consumption. As you can see, after 2 years, all the breast cancer survivors eating lots of soy were still alive. But a quarter to a third of the women who ate the least soy were dead. And after 5 years, 90% of the tofu lovers were still alive and kicking, whereas half of the tofu haters kicked the bucket. You can see a similar relationship when you look at breast cancer survival and soy protein.
All right, so this is one of the problems that I have, like, with just, like, okay, I know this is YouTube, like, it's cool to hate on vegans, and there's all, like, carnivore vegan thing, like, the, you know, shit-talking battles going on back and forth, and, like, this is kind of, like, I kind of get the same vibe as, like, the presidential debates, right? Back in 2016, it was the whole, like, Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton. And, like, I've never really been, I hate politics. Like, I'm not going to lie. I cannot stand it. I think it brings out the worst in people. And I think to care so much and to get, like, to let your emotions kind of just, to let it run away with your emotions over something that at the end of the day really does not have any effect on your life, I think is really stupid and kind of only pretty much a symptom of people that don't have really much going on in their lives. That's just me. That's my little rant about it. However, the carnivore vegan debate, or vegan non-vegan, or whatever you want to call it, reminds me a lot in spirit of the like Republican Democrat or conservative liberal, like whatever you want to classify that, in that when I, like, what I'll do, this is just me personally, is I'll look at the two sides without looking about what they're actually saying, and I'll just kind of judge them based on their character, right? And, like, I don't want this to turn into like a political video, and I'm not saying one side is perfect and the other one isn't, but I found the liberal side to have much more distasteful behavior than the conservative side. And this is just in that one snapshot. Like, I'm not saying, like, and that means that Donald Trump, like, it's not about that. Okay, but, like, when I watched that, I was like, oh my God, like, these Democrats, like, why are they acting like, do you know what you look like? Like, you look ridiculous, like, you're embarrassing yourself. Whereas the other side was like, you know, I don't know, in my opinion, like, handling things like, I don't want to say mature adults, because there's a little bit of back and forth, but they were just winning. They were more confident. They were more like more like, I would rather, like, hang out with them than the other side. And you can be like, oh, well, that's how you base your decisions. This is the future of the country. Like, okay, dude, whatever. Like, at the end of the day, it's a human being that occupies that office, and you must, like, you must admire that human being, or at least approve of them on a personal level. I think. I could be wrong. So the vegan carnivore diet or debate is kind of similar to that, right? If you look at the behavior of vegans compared to carnivores, I think both of them are kind of, I don't want to say insufferable, but they are kind of insufferable in terms of like the back and forth and how they'll talk about how theirs is like the best and the other one is really stupid and blah blah blah, like all this stuff. But the vegan side, what I've noticed is that they rely so heavily on stuff like this, which is really kind of the point of this like very roundabout way of what I'm trying to say, is that they'll rely on this. So like, you know, Dr. Mike or whatever his name is, like he'll be like, oh, and there was a study that showed that soy isoflavones were associated with a lower risk of mortality. And these green people, like the green line here, they died twice a rate. So first of all, the problem with this kind of thing is that correlation does not equal causation, right? These graphs are intended to scare stupid people who don't know anything about scientific studies and are like willing to believe and repeat stuff like this that they hear in YouTube without actually reading the study, which is why I wanted to read that, why I paused the video, because I wanted to read like the stuff that was down here. Because specifically what I was looking for was to see if this was like the type of study where they basically sampled thousands of people and asked them a bazillion questions and then picked out a few data points to like associate with one another and say, you know, increased soy consumption was related to lower risk of mortality, okay, which is what this seems to be, which means correlation, or, you know, you could say in response to that, correlation does not equal causation, okay? Basically, like, you can take thousands of people and you're going to find things that correlate and match up that have absolutely nothing to do with each other. There's a website on the internet, I forget what it is, but like it tracks these things. It'll like match up graphs for you, like, I don't know, like price of gasoline in Colombia compared to the rise of, you know, popularity of the show Breaking Bad or something ridiculous like that, right? And you'll see like the graphs like track, you know, not 100%, but like really close, like close enough that it seems strange to explain it as chance, okay? So again, you know, I don't think it's quite that far gone, like in this example, right? Because I guess you could say that people who eat soy are more health conscious overall. Doesn't mean they're going to be healthier, but they probably, if they're eating lots of soy, first of all, if they're eating soy, that means they're not eating processed or like really bad processed food generally. And if they are eating soy, maybe they're more likely to be vegetarian or more likely to be vegan, which generally will have better habits overall. I don't think it's optimal in terms of like athleticism, but your average vegan versus like your average, like whatever, you know, fat American, like bumblefuck nowhere, the vegan is probably going to be more healthy, right? So that's it, but this is a study in Asia. Anyway, I don't want to get too into it. And the other type of study that I thought maybe it could be was if they were actually like studying cancer survivors over, this looks to be about 5 years, and they were instructing them to eat soy protein, right? They were saying, okay, you people eat soy protein, you people don't eat any soy protein, like giving them instructions. Like, you guys are going to eat this much soy, you guys are not going to eat any soy, and you guys are going to eat, I don't know, whey protein or something, right? It wasn't that kind of study. If it was that kind of study, I would have been like, okay, maybe there's something to this, but it's just correlation. So like, again, like I'm talking about this too much, but when you are presented with studies like this as proof by doctors, I encourage you to take a more critical look at it, if you even care, so you can see, so you can interpret it in an intelligent way. I don't know. Let's just keep watching.
Protein intake, as opposed to soy phytonutrient intake. The age of puberty for girls continues to decline. Last year, researchers published a study of more than 1,000 girls across the country and found a higher prevalence of onset of breast development among girls at ages 7 and 8 years old compared with those observed more than just a decade earlier. This has obvious
Interesting that he left this part. He left this part about, especially in white participants. So the onset of puberty is thought to be linked to the presence of the girl's father, right? Like, let me Google this right now just to make sure that I am onset of puberty in females linked to presence of father. Let me just double check this. Father absences puberty among certain girls. Girls in homes without a biological father are more likely to hit puberty at an early age, according to a new study. Okay, so I didn't imagine this as NCBI. Like, I don't know. I don't want to like get too into it right now, but it's right. So like, again, not to like turn this into something that's not health related, but interestingly enough, he left this part out about white participants just because statistically in I don't know about non-white, like all non-white, but like in African American families, I'm assuming this study is in the United States, African Americans, like the biological fathers is less likely to be there statistically speaking, right? So you have a lot of like young black girls who are hitting puberty at a very young age. If you want to like speculate in terms of like biologically why this is happening, I guess you could say that because the girl sees that there is no strong male figure around, she like unconsciously thinks that she needs to pair up with a strong male to take care of her and her children and family or whatever. So her body like kicks her into higher gear in terms of the onset of puberty, so that she will pair up with a man sooner rather than later. Okay, and if you like really want to like dig into it, you could further speculate that this is a trait that was selected for, like a survival trait, because in, you know, across the billions of humans that have ever lived, in communities where the father, you know, was not present and the girls did develop more like womanly traits at a young age, those civilizations and those populations were more likely to survive because a 7 or 8 year old, like, all right, fine, like there are some pedos out there who like want to like have sex with an 8-year-old girl who like actually looks like a child. That happens, I guess. But an 8-year-old girl who like has breasts and like is like, you know, whatever, it is what it is, right? Like a girl who has breasts, you're gonna look, right? Like I'm not a pedophile, I swear to God, but like it's just like human nature. Like, okay, maybe you'll look and be like, oh, that's not good, she's like too young, like instinctively, like you're not going to do anything, obviously, but like if this was like 1,000 years ago and you're some warrior in some tribe and you go invade some other fucking country and kill all the men and there's no men there, and like you stay there for a while and like the girls develop at a younger age, like I don't think they had like all these like pedophile laws back then. So this is you could say that it's like logically sound, my little pro science weird argument. Okay. Anyway, yeah, like let's move on from that point. Oh, actually, so this is only about white participants. Okay, so this has nothing to do with like African American, but it's interesting that he didn't say that. Now, well, okay, let's just see what they have to say.
Psychosocial implications, but from a medical standpoint, the reason we're so concerned is that those who start developing at a younger age are at an increased risk of breast cancer later in life due to the increased estrogen exposure. For every year puberty can be delayed, risk of future breast cancer may drop 7%. A century ago, girls were starting their periods at around age 16, which may help explain why breast cancer is now such an epidemic. So what's contributing to this premature development? A new study last year following...
I'm kind of curious what's contributing to this premature development. However, I do want to point out one thing about cancer before we continue on with Dr. Mike or whatever. A lot of people have an incorrect view about what cancer is. They see it as like a thing that happens, and once you get cancer, like you have cancer. I am now have cancer, like, oh my God, I got this thing and it's, like this is my cancer. Oh, I have it now, right? That's how they see it. Cancer is, and that's viewing it as like an object, right? If you were to view cancer as a process as opposed to an object or even an event, if you view it as a process, not something that your body has or receives, but it is a process that your body goes through. A process implies that the process can be stopped. Whereas if your body contains an object, the object must be cut out, right? Which is why surgery happens, and like, the current like methodology for curing cancer is so like ass backwards, in my opinion. Okay, so basically, cancer is just it's a process that your body goes through as a result of you, for lack of a better explanation, treating it poorly, right? So if you are messing with your hormones, you're taking birth control, you are living an unnatural lifestyle, you are more likely to get breast cancer, especially if you're like fat and out of shape and just like treat your body like shit. Like you're more likely to get breast cancer, or any kind of cancer, really. And if you like fall for the whole like pink ribbon bullshit, and you're like, oh my god, it's like the whole eating disorder thing. It's like, oh, I'm a cancer survivor. Everybody's so nice to me now. Like I've got breast cancer. Like, oh my god, they give me a pink ribbon, and people are raising money for me, and all these players at the NFL are wearing pink socks to like celebrate how much of a hero I am, right? If you fall for that and you buy into that because you either have extremely low expectations of what you're capable of in your life, or you just have nothing else going for you, and you live such a, again, I don't want to like be mean to anybody who's this happened to, but like if we look at it practically, if you have something to live for, you are going to actually look for ways to conquer this unfortunate predicament on your own, as opposed to being completely like subjugating yourself to the will of the modern medical community, which is pretty much just acting in order to not get sued and not lose their license to keep doing experiments and keep writing prescriptions or whatever. All right, that's a little harsh, but like you get what I'm saying.
3,000 girls found the single most important dietary determinant was how much meat girls eat. Meat intake, measured at 3 and 7 years, was strongly positively associated with starting their period by 12 years, 8 months.
Yeah. Like, this is why, remember what I said earlier about like the conservative liberal thing? How I don't like the behavior of liberals, how they behave during the like election and like the run up. This is something that I do not like about vegans. Like this whole like like on the surface, okay, if you were to read this, meat intake at 3 and 7 years was strongly positively associated with reaching menarche, I don't know, like puberty, I guess, by 12 years, 8 months, or for menarche in the highest, the lowest category of meat. I don't know what this last part means, but basically meat intake. This is the deceptively vague term for excuse me, for what's actually happening here. Okay, meat intake at 3 and 7 years. At 3 and 7 years old in the United States, or this is I guess England, what kind of meat do you think these people are eating? Okay, do you think it is likely that they are eating what I would consider to be the best type of meat, or whatever? Like, they're eating fucking fast food, let's be honest. Like, 3 and 7 years old, like, what kind of meat is a fucking 3-year-old gonna eat? Like, they're gonna eat fucking Happy Meals at McDonald's. They're not eating, like, lean cuts of, like, red meat that is grass-fed. They're eating trash fast food and drinking soda and fucking eating french fries and milkshakes and, like, all this shit. And, guess what? Populations that consume more fast food are more likely to be poor. Okay, now this specific study does not talk about white people versus black people, okay, but and I don't know the statistics on like black fathers being around in England, or if that's just like an American thing where they're like not around, so I can't comment on that. But let's even say that it's only white, right? If you are like, if you're poor, you're eating fast food. If you're poor, your father's less likely to be around. And if you're poor, you're eating fucking Happy Meals and meat at fast food restaurants. So if you're poor, you're more likely to like start puberty at a young age. You probably have worse dietary health things, you know, altogether.
And so the trends in age at menarche in the West over the last century might reflect the trends in meat consumption.
Another very vague statement that is open to misinterpretation, however readily parroted, I'm sure, by the vegan community, where they're like, well, did you actually know that consumption in meat is positively correlated with you know, early onset puberty in girls? Yeah, here's these studies that prove it. The secular trends in basically early onset puberty in the West over the last century might reflect the secular trends in meat consumption. What are the secular trends in meat consumption in the past 100 years? Fast food. Okay, that is what it is. That is where most people consume meat in the West is from fast food restaurants, which, you know, are not known for having healthy food, right? It's like they don't call it like fast healthy food. They call it fast food. And it's not good for you. I mean, yeah, okay, it's possible to eat healthy at a fast food restaurant, but like, you know, who is, right? You're not. You go to McDonald's, you want the fries. You're at Burger King, you want the fries, you want the mozzarella sticks, you want the French toast sticks, you want the Coke, you know? Anyway, I can't even like...
The second most powerful predictor was animal protein in general, so it wasn't just meat. The reason girls eating vegetarian have been found to develop more normally may also be influenced by their soy intake. Last year, a group of researchers calculated that girls drinking just like 2 cups of soy milk a week start developing breasts an average 8 months later than those who drink hardly any. Soy failed to have an effect, however, on timing of puberty in boys.
I kind of want to read this, but I don't want this to turn into like a vegan debunking video. But let's just like, I don't want to listen to this guy. I hate this guy's like smug voice too. Fuck, I'm kind of over it actually. All right, here we go. Results. Girls whose diet was in the highest dietary isoflavone textile experienced Tanner stage 2 for breast development. 0.7 years later, blah, blah, blah. Endogenous soy flour has been widely adopted in the preparation. Foods containing high amounts of isoflavones are enriched in dietary fiber. Higher fiber consumption was associated with later menarche. Okay, so this is like, again, I hate like even talking about science with this, because when you're just kind of like cherry picking examples to make your point, like you can hear it in this guy's voice. Like he's such a like smug. I hate it. But anyway, the point of this, right? They like think about it like this. What else could this be? Because they're not explicitly stating. They're not saying like, okay, we took a bunch of girls and we gave some of them soy for like a bunch of years, and we didn't give the other ones soy, and everything else was totally exactly the same. And the ones we gave soy to developed later than the ones we didn't give soy to. Okay. So that's not happening, right? You have to think like what other variables are at play in families that consume more soy versus families that don't. Like there's no information here in terms of like no like socioeconomic background of these people or like racial background. And the two are like often correlated. So like maybe I'm just thinking out loud here, like what if the families or girls or whatever that consume more soy, what if they were more Asian, right? If it was like an Asian community and Asian girls, because family is more important to Asian people, more likely to have the father around, and therefore more likely, you know, for the girl to develop later, and also consequently is also eating more soy, right? That information is not really here. And to be honest with you, like this is so obviously like vegan like debate hacking, I guess, that I don't even really like want to look it up. But anyway, yeah, it could be that. So like,
calculated that girls drinking just like 2 cups of soy milk a week start developing breasts an average 8 months later than those who drink hardly any. Soy failed to have an effect, however, on timing of puberty in boys.
Okay, so as you see, phytoestrogens are one more fact that is largely misunderstood and that isn't actually as problematic as some people think. So let's go on and take a look on some other things. So another thing that you hear a lot is trypsin inhibitors in soy. So what are trypsin inhibitors? Trypsin inhibitors are proteins that actually impair your ability to digest protein. So that's something that's really bad for someone who wants to build muscles, right? Because you want to get in as much protein as you can. And if you eat something with trypsin inhibitors, that's a problem. So soy would be a problem then. That's right, but you have to consider that trypsin inhibitors, once you process the food, get broken because there are protein structures and they are quite vulnerable to processing. So if you cook things up or if you process them in other ways, they get broken and they don't function anymore. So if you then take a look on like things like tofu, you find out that the actual amount or the actual inhibiting ability of tofu is only like 2 to 5% of unprocessed soy. In soy milk, it's like about 10% or so. And so what you can say is that the activity of those trypsin inhibitors once foods are processed, and you need to process them. No one in the world eats soy unprocessed. It's always processed in some way. So, and if it's processed, the trypsin inhibitors get broken up, and that's no problem at all. And also, what we find out in recent years in fresher studies is that a little bit of trypsin inhibiting can actually benefit your body. So I would say it seems pretty much like trypsin inhibitors are really not that much of a problem either. So that's point number 3 that we have killed. Let's go on with number 4.
I've never even heard of this trypsin inhibitor. Like, what the hell is, I don't know, what is this? What is a trypsin inhibitor? Protein type of serum present. Alright, I don't know. Interfere with digestion activity, antinutritional. Oh, so like anti-nutrients, I guess. Like, I don't even fucking, come on, dude. Like, who even cares?
So number 4 would be then oxalic acid, or oxalate. Oxalic acid can really be a problem. But one thing that you have to understand is oxalic acid is especially a problem to one special group of people, and that's people who have problems with kidney stones, because oxalic acid actually builds oxalic acid kidney stones. So if you, but that's not an issue for everyone, that's an issue for those who are vulnerable to that condition and who have a history of problems with kidney stones. So if you're one of those people, you should have an eye on your soy consumption, because it can really give you problems with your kidney stones. But then on the same moment, you have to consider that a lot of other foods also contain oxalic acid. So you have to really keep an eye on a lot of other stuff too. And those people that have a history of problems there, they normally know which foods they have to keep an eye on. So I would say oxalic acid can be a problem, but not for everyone. And it's not that much of a problem.
All right, so like, I've heard of oxalates. I've heard of that. But like, again, like he said, it's such a non-issue for most people that the only time you really ever hear about it is literally like in Facebook groups or like the comment section of some fucking video on YouTube where people are like, oh, you ate this food? Have fun with your oxalates. It's like, bro, what the fuck are you even talking about? Like, what does that even mean, oxalates? Like, people just love to argue and debate and talk shit about another group. Like, it's just human nature, right? But why are you even, honestly, like, why are even these people making it so complicated, right? Vegans just make it way too complicated. Carnivores kind of do too, to be honest with you. None of them eat raw meat, or very few of them. All right, anyway, let's finish this shit.
So we come to point number 5, phytic acid. And with phytic acid, we can pretty much say the same things as that apply to oxalic acid also apply here. So it can be a problem. Actually, phytic acid is a little bit more of a general problem for everyone, because the problem with phytic acid is that it actually steals minerals that you take in. So it inhibits the intake of minerals that you have already taken in. And that's a little bit of a problem, or can be a little bit of a problem. But as we look on newer studies, we find out that a little bit of phytic acid can actually help with other things. Like it seems to be helpful preventing cancer. It seems to be helpful with some other, with controlling blood sugar and other things too. So it seems like it's not so much about trying to not take in any phytic acid, but more controlling the amounts. So and also another thing is phytic acid is not a soy exclusive problem, but it is also a problem in a lot of cereals and also a lot of legumes. Phytic acid sits on the outside of grains and so on, so in the skin. And that means if you want to reduce phytic acid, it would be a good idea not to have whole grains in every meal, but instead having the non-whole grain version of some foods, like instead of brown rice, having a polished white rice would be a good idea, to not have that much of phytic acid, to control the amounts. So as we see, point number 5, also something that is not really that much of a general problem and that much of a huge thing actually.
Okay, so he does like phytic acid, or is it phytic acid? I thought it was phytic acid. This is like considered to be, I don't want to say it's considered to be like, all right, so this westonaprice.org, I want to say, is their website. Like, if you guys have not read this entire website and you think you know anything about like health or nutrition, you need to read literally everything on this entire website before you're even allowed to like have a discussion, to be honest with you. In this website, they talk a lot about how you should eat, right? Like this right here. I love this website. Okay, so Weston A. Price was a dentist, actually, who studied like dentistry. Not, he didn't study dentistry. He studied like primitive cultures, like 20 of them around the world, and noticed that like the ones that didn't have access to modern dentistry had the best teeth. And he studied their diets, studied like all this shit, and he found like correlations between the types of foods that these like civilization or populations ate and how good their teeth were, and by extension how good their overall health was, because they say that your teeth are kind of a mirror of like how good your nutrition is, right? So like I don't want to get too into it right now, but one of the things they talk about is phytic acid, and phytic acid is found in like I'll see if I can find the article, and I'll phytic acid, Weston A. Price. This article is highly like very well recommended, or very recommended that you read this. I'll put this link in the description, but basically read this. Phytic acid is in like, it's in fucking everything, like all kinds of legumes, all kinds of grains, literally in every type of grain. Like you won't look at bread the same way, you won't look at beans the same way, you won't look like any of the shit that you eat all the time the same way after you read this article. Phytic acid basically leaches nutrients, or it like, I think it's a form of phosphorus that binds to magnesium and calcium and like all these minerals that your body needs, and like you end up peeing them out or something. So there's like, I think rye is something that will like neutralize it, but again, like this is not directly related to soy, right? I guess there is some phytic acid in soy, but you know, it's not like, there's also phytic acid in a ton of other shit, so like you can't really say like, oh, there's phytic acid in soy, that's why it's bad for you. I mean, that's true, but it's not like it's only in soy, it's in actually a lot of other stuff as well. It's not in meat, by the way. Yeah, anyway, this video is way too long, but let's go on.
So now let's take a look on the pros. I have already told you something about the pros in the last video, and I also told you that I use soy products, and that I don't think that it's that much of a problem, but you should, with everything, you should control the amounts, and you should have a good mix of protein sources. But I think that in general soy is okay. Why? Because soy gives you pretty balanced amino acid, mix of amino acids. Untypical for legumes, it is already pretty balanced, so you don't have to combine it even with other things to have a balanced amino acid profile. And also, soy is quite cheap, so it's quite affordable if you want to take in big amounts of protein. And also, you have a big variety of sources, like tempeh, like tofu, like soy milk, like soy isolate, or texturated soy. So there's really a big variety of things that you can consume. So let's have a look on the bottom line. So the take-home message for today would be soy has some good and some not so good properties. So we have to take a look on which amount of soy actually. If you take a look on newer studies, it seems that 3 to 5 servings of soy protein a day should be okay. So things like tofu or tempeh or soy protein-based stuff. 3 to 5 servings seems to be pretty perfect to get all the benefits without getting the problems, without getting to the problematic side of soy. Cooking and fermentation are great ways to enhance the good side of soy and diminish the bad side of soy. So cooking and fermentation, especially fermentation, are great ways to make soy even better. So the final message is, enjoy your soy, but don't overdo it. Just try to mix it up. There are so many great alternatives, and there are so many great plant-based alternatives. It's absolutely no problem to have soy in your diet and combine it with all those great alternatives that you have at hand. So mix.
So I guess the video's over. Let's give my like summary or whatever of this fucking train wreck of a video. My video, not his video. Anyway, both of them. Okay, so I like soy. Okay, sometimes I'll have soy. Especially here in Thailand, they sell soy milk in glass bottles. I think it's delicious. I haven't had any lately, but if I want to eat something or whatever, and like it does have a lot of protein, and you know, I think it's processed, so like how much of like the amino acids am I really getting? I don't really know. But I will, you know, I have had my fair share of soy milk, and soy is in basically everything these days anyway, so like you are going to eat some soy. The one, I guess, beef I have with it is that like if you need to consume it in moderation, that means it's not really good for you, okay? If you need to limit something, then it's not good, I guess, is kind of, well, okay, that doesn't make sense. I'm just comparing it to like meat, right? Like you can literally eat as much meat as you want. There's no like such thing as like meat poisoning or like meat disease or some like retarded shit like that. Like, okay, yeah, they said meat consumption is linked to early onset puberty, but come on. No, it's not, bro. Like, stop like using your like twisted like studies or like cherry picking your facts and not giving the entire picture. However, I will say, I think the whole thing about soy is overblown. I think you can consume some soy without thinking you're gonna like grow a pair of tits or something like that, or you know, whatever, have all these like awful effects. I think that is completely overblown. I think you're totally fine to like have a little bit of soy here and there, but I think what the real reason why people kind of don't like soy and are kind of like, you know, a little they just don't like it is because there's this whole like soy boy thing now, right? Which is kind of like a derogatory term for like, I guess, a liberal, really. Like, it's pretty much a liberal thing. A liberal who like is kind of a very like metro and very like, they call it new male, like NU-MALE, like a very feminine man basically. And unfortunately, like, this guy seems to be an exception. I mean, he seems like a very nice guy, but he's not your like traditional like bro-y like meathead guy. Like, he's not like, oh yeah, like, oh, like, I'll fuck this bitch, like, blah, blah, blah. He's like a very like nice, like friendly, oh, I'm your friendly powerlifter man from Germany, you know. But most people who consume soy and recommend soy are like, you don't want to take any advice from these people. Like, you're gonna like take advice from some like pencil neck like nerdy looking dude. No offense to anybody who looks like that who might be watching these videos, but nobody wants to take fitness advice from somebody who looks like, with like a minimal amount of, you know, makeup, could pass for a woman. And those are generally the people who like recommend soy, or like some like, you know, I don't know, like whatever, just basically somebody whose opinion is likely to be biased, right? Like this guy, for example, he's biased because he is, you know, makes money from being a vegan, basically. Lots of doctors, like Dr. Mike from earlier, like I wouldn't be surprised if he's, you know, makes money somehow from being a vegan or promoting soy or whatever. Okay, so bottom line, soy is okay. You're not gonna die or like experience too many negative effects from eating soy. Like, if you want extra protein, it's fine. But again, like always, what you should be eating if you're hungry and you want more of something, is just like more raw meat, okay? That is my prescription. If you guys have any other videos or YouTubers that you want me to take a look at, let me know, leave me a comment. Peace.